everyone, and welcome back to my English classes online intermediate level. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at expressing advice. So this means using should, had better, and ought to. We've got some great examples, so let's get started. Let's start with should. Should and ought to are the two phrases here that are the most similar. We use should to express when something would be good for you or beneficial. Let's have a look at some examples. You should eat fruit and vegetables every day. You should do exercise if you want to be fit. And they should study very hard. Now, these are all things that if you do will be beneficial or good for you. We can also make these sentences in the negative form. You should not go to bed late and you shouldn't smoke. So, these sentences mean not doing those things is beneficial or good for you. Notice with our second negative example, you shouldn't smoke, I have used the shortened form. So, instead of should not, I have shouldn't with an apostrophe T. Let's move on to looking at ought to. Now, in the previous examples, we said ought to and should are very similar. So, again, ought to is speaking about things that if you did them would be good or beneficial for you. Let's look at these examples using ought to. You ought to eat fruit and vegetables every day. You ought to do exercise if you want to be fit. And they ought to study very hard. Just like with should, we can have negative sentences using ought to. What these sentences will mean is, again, not doing those things will be beneficial for you. So, you ought not to go to bed late and you ought not to smoke. Here we have our negatives, but notice here that we don't make any shortened versions, so we keep it in its long form. You ought not to. Let's have a look at some more examples using should and ought to. Now remember, we said that they are the same, which means we can use them in each other's places. Let's have a look at this first example. Person A says, I have to get up early tomorrow. Person B says, then you should or you ought to go to bed early. Both of them can be used. In our next example, person A says, he has gained weight. And person B says, he shouldn't or he ought not to eat too much. Again, we're using our shortened form for should not, so it becomes shouldn't, and ought not to stays the same. This is a negative sentence. So, in the beginning of the lesson, I told you how should and ought to have a similar meaning and we can use them in each other's places. Had better is a little bit different. Had better is a much stronger warning and we often use it to show a negative outcome or a negative result. Let's have a look at these examples. You had better study hard, otherwise you will fail. So here, the negative result would be failing. And so you'd had better study hard is the very serious warning. In our next example, you had better stop smoking or you will get worse. The negative result here would be getting worse. So the strong warning is to stop smoking. Had better doesn't always show a negative result. Sometimes it just shows the very strong warning. For example, your son had better not eat too much candy. It's not good for his teeth. In this example, we see that there is no negative result or consequence that the person speaks about. They're just giving a very strong warning. Okay, so that is it for our lesson on expressing advice with should, had better, and ought to. Now it's time for you to get started on the activities, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.